I'm here.
You're gonna hopefully find that out on Thursday. For right now though. Okay, that's right. You could, I guess you would have been taken.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
I just thought of it.
that is a good question, and I don't have my committee list. Well, I know he was on public safety. You don't have a meeting.
Might have to do
Okay, Jesse. Yeah. Well, that is true. That is true. And then you are on finance because that's everybody. Okay, so you're good. Don't worry about that, Jess.
You're in good shape.
Okay.
As long as I'm not- That's the
Yep,
only thing
you're
I was concerned with.
Please, you can tell the mayor whenever.
Okay, Jess, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna call to order the Planning and Development Committee meeting. First item on the agenda, Ms. Schuler.
Petition by South Point Ventures, a South Carolina General Partnership to annex Dorchester County TMS number 13800000015, approximately 15.7 acres, located at South Point Boulevard and East Fifth North Street, currently zoned TRM, Transitional Residential District in Dorchester County, and will be zoned MFR, multifamily residential, upon annexation into the town of Somerville municipal limits. This would be in Council District 2. Planning Commission held a public hearing and unanimously voted down a recommendation for approval at their meeting on December 20th, 2021.
If I may speak,
Absolutely.
I've gotten probably as many, if not more, letters on this development than I have anything else. And I tend to agree with these letters. And I guess I would make a motion that we move it to full council in agreeing with the Planning Commission for denial.
I'll
if you-
second it.
And just to understand, your motion is that we, as did the Planning Commission, we would recommend denial, recommend rejection of the petition and denial of the ordinance.
Correct.
Correct.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Proposed amendments to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Section 3.4.2 D3, Manufactured Housing Design Standards. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on December 20th, 2021.
Yes. Ms. Schuler, if you want to explain the proposed amendment to the public.
Yes, sir. It's two minor amendments. Basically, our conditional use for the manufactured housing design standards required that there be a 6-inch eave overhang on the roof of a mobile home. It was brought to our attention that homes before a certain date that are still legal, but that were built before a certain date do not have that 6-inch overhang, and it cannot be added because it structurally won't hold a roof over top of the existing one. And so this is to take that requirement away so that those homes could still be allowed in the town, because they do meet the building code requirements for the date, but they couldn't meet that 6-inch overhang. And the other change, also a very slight change, is previously we required that they take off the axle and all that stuff. or, and we are changing it to either remove it or fully screen it.
Could you state that second thing? I missed a couple
So
of things.
previously, the ordinance required that they basically take off all the equipment that shows that it's a mobile home and not a real home. And now we're giving them the option to either remove it or just make sure it is all fully screened.
And how would they be able to screen it? I mean, are you talking about bricking in or just?
It doesn't have to be brick. There's materials listed in the ordinance. It can be metal, brick, but it has to be fully screened. It can't be like the lattice work where you can still see the
So
material.
metal skirting would do it.
It would still be allowed. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. But it has to be, it has to be fully screened. It can't.
I guess I have a question about both of these, because I understand exactly what you're saying about the ease. And in new mobile homes, new whatever they're called today, mobile homes. Manufactured housing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brown has a long history with this industry. The current construction standards kind of are what they are, and I'm presuming that anything built today is going to have that, what we're requiring. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So really all we're doing to some extent is amending our code to reflect what's being built.
What we're basically doing is amending the code so that existing mobile homes in the town can be moved to a different spot in the town without being a
Okay,
non-conformity.
because that was going to be my
That's really all we're doing.
because that was going to be my next question. If somebody put a mobile home down 30 years ago and it showed the axle and it didn't have the overhang, they're still in compliance.
Yes, but if they want to move it to
Okay,
another
so
site,
all
they
this-
wouldn't be. So
So
this
all
just,
these changes is about is allowing people to move an existing mobile home from one location of the town to another.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
And is that, Jesse, because all newly manufactured since some date that you tell me in the past have a 6-inch overhang?
I can't give you an exact date, but yes, the ones built in the present time do have if you look at most of the new or all of the new mobile homes, they have a slight overhang to them. The previous ones, I don't know what the date change was. I can't tell you what that exact date was, but it was after we do still. So there's a date where you're not allowed to put mobile homes in the town anymore because they weren't built to the wind standards and that sort of thing. And I think that's 1976. However, there was a time between 1976 and say to like 1990 where they built them where they don't have an overhang. It kind of just looks like the roof goes into the wall type of thing. So they're still legal by building code. But if we didn't make this change in our ordinance, we would basically make them non-conforming if they wanted to move to a different lot
Okay.
in town.
I think I understand. So I'm going to ask what I maybe is for a revision. I'm not understanding why we need to change it from 6 inches to 3 inches.
Oh, no, we're changing it to not have an overhang at all.
Huh?
We're just getting rid of the overhang requirement.
It's removing that requirement altogether.
Why? I understand if somebody wants to move a mobile home with the way it's written now, that they can. Why don't we adjust it to allow that and leave the 6 inches alone is what my question is. I mean,
You mean, why don't we just change it to say?
if you bring in a new mobile home, it's got to have a 6-inch overhang. If you've got an existing mobile home that exists before whatever date it is today, that's sitting on your property and it's got less than 6 inches, we're allowing you to move that mobile home under the ordinance.
I think it's if you have an existing mobile home that does not have that 6-inch overhang, if you move it to another location, it would be considered non-conforming.
Yeah, and what he's saying is,
I
why don't
understand
we add language and rather than removing the language about 6 inches for all mobile homes,
Mhm.
I believe
Yeah,
Mr.
effective
Jensen is
today.
saying, why don't we just change it to say new mobile homes must have the 6-inch overhang. However, if an existing mobile home within the town limits does not meet that requirement and wants to move to another lot that allows mobile homes in the town limits, it's allowed.
And-
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And the only thing I would, you may.
Basically, what we're trying to do is grandfather home
Mhm.
down. Yeah, if it's a new mobile home, then they have to meet the new requirements.
That's what, yeah,
Correct.
I mean,
Well, except that we're stating that there's no, if we pass it as proposed, we're saying that new mobile homes would not have to have an overhang and eve overhang of any, and it sounds bad because obviously you can see the benefits of having the overhang. But on the other hand, I mean, I don't know how many mobile home manufacturers there are in the country. I assume it's less than 10, maybe I'm wrong. And they're building to a national standard. It's like, if we wanted to, we could say that we, instead of 6 inches or whatever, we want 12 inches. Well, what that would do would mean that there are no new mobile homes coming into Somerville, because I don't think anybody's building to that. So what we say, 6 inches, 3 inches, 12 inches, is fairly irrelevant, because no manufacturer is going to change their manufacturing specs for little old Somerville. The manufacturing specs are the manufacturing specs. And if we do something different or more onerous than the specs, then we're basically outlawing mobile homes. So I understand what Councilman Jenkins is saying, but nobody's going to modify how they build a mobile home for the town of Somerville.
I guess the question would be, do you want someone to be able to move a mobile home that's not currently in town limits, that doesn't have an overhang, into the town limits? Because if you did it where only they could move it if it's already in town, then you're taking away the ability for someone who says, say, lives in Dorchester County, that may just be one street over, to then move their home a different,
Well,
that's
oh,
one question, but,
I'll ask it one more time because maybe I'm slow.
okay.
Probably
That
am.
sounds slow.
No. Right now, the way the code is written, you have to have a 6-inch overhang. What we're trying to fix is current mobile homes that exist that don't do that. My question is, why do you change the big issue, which is the 6-inch overhang? That doesn't need to be changed. That's what we were already saying. We just want to let people who've already got a home be able to move it. And we need to change the ordinance to allow that.
Yeah, I agree, Terry. I think if we just grandfather anything
Yeah.
in town to be moved in town, not allowing things from outside to come in, that would be
Correct.
good. And as far as somebody that
Good catch.
lived for a long time in mobile homes, as far as the skirting, insurance companies, all of them I dealt with require solid skirting because of fire. So I don't think that's a problem either.
So,
Well,
so you only
given
want,
that, I think I can make a motion.
All right.
I think I can make a motion that we leave the ordinance as written, with an exception to allow mobile homes that are in place as of, let's say, February the 1st, 2022, with a lesser overhang to be moved within the town limits of Somerville without penalty, but no mobile homes outside of Somerville may be moved into Somerville
I'll
with less
second.
than a 6-inch overhang.
You got a second?
Okay, I would just point out that obviously what we do here in committee is just to make recommendations
To
to council.
council for that reason.
So if the motion is to move it forward to council with the recommendation of that change, and that's your second, then I think we can proceed.
That is correct.
Okay. I think we have to vote on on Mr. Jenkins's amendment first, so.
Can I ask one question real quick, if you don't mind? Are you okay with the change from the other slight change about this, the skirt, like not having to remove all the things off, just having a full skirting?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know what it actually would say. I understand the intent of Mr. Jenkins's amendment. I had no idea how that.
I
would-
will try to work on some language to have to you.
What I was going
as
to
soon as possible.
suggest is that we simply move it. Well, we could simply move it to full council without a recommendation, but we move it to full council, either recommendation to approve with no recommendation or to reject or deny. And that's the three things this committee can do. So we got to move it to full council with a request either from you, Jesse, or from our corporation council to prepare amendments for the full council to consider on Thursday is what I would suggest. But we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna vote nay, then the ayes have it. So that's what we're doing. Are there any other items for this committee?
No, sir, I have
In
nothing.
that
else.
case, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have two motions, which I'm gonna count one as the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you, Jesse. The Finance Committee. Ms. Rhonda.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You have a new report in front of you for Finance Committee, so it has a few different columns. Sorry. So hopefully this, hopefully you understand some of this. I'm gonna explain a little bit about how it's set up. And I would welcome your comments on what you like and what you don't like and what you would like to see. This is probably a work in process till we get something that we're all happy with and provides the information that you need. The first page is the summary. I'll call your attention to the first column. Obviously, I think it's all self-explanatory, it's just the current budget. The current period is December year-to-date, and the budget balance is how much of the budget is left to either collect in revenue or, in the case of expenses, expend, is what we're expecting based on the budget. And this is our first full year in our fiscal year ending in June that we've been dealing with for 6 months. So looking at these financial reports is different than what we've been used to looking at. And on this summary, you'll notice that on a percent of budget, we have collected 21% of our revenues in half of this year. So the rest of our roughly 80% of our revenues is expecting to come in the next 6 months. In contrast to that, our expenses, we don't have the luxury of delaying a lot of the operational expenses. So on average, we have spent 48% of our budget in the first 6 months. So that generates a excess expenses over revenues. So in the summary, revenues, we collected roughly 3 million, year-to-date 9 million. And we expended 3 million in December, and our year-to-date is about 20 million. The next 2 pages has a detail of all our revenue items. This might be more detail than you like, but I certainly wanted you to have this information out there. Again, most of our revenue is to come in the next 6 months. There are a couple of even line items that we know, for instance, our reimbursement from Dorchester District 2, that doesn't even get here until June. So it's a big revenue item, but it won't hit our books until June. Any questions on the revenue items? Expenses?
Rhonda,
yes, sir.
if you go back to page 1,
Yes, sir.
just a question.
Sure.
Our revenues are 21% of budgets, our expenditures are 48% with 27% as we go through a year, when you give the report, are you going to let us know? I mean, I can read the numbers, but are you going to let us know, we expect to get X? This generally comes in April.
I can, I'm,
Just so I have a level of comfort that I'm not going to end up at 23% of budget. I know we're not, but I think it would be helpful to know what big ticket items we expect to come in at a whatever time of year, particularly, I'm going to say for this year and another year since we just changed the financial year.
absolutely. And as I have been going through this, I've certainly been learning myself. And matter of fact, I was like, "Oh, why don't we have any money in that category?" So I went back to look to see when does it come in and some of that. So that it's just a whole different view than what we've dealt with before on a calendar year. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
and if I may add something, and Rhonda and I have had this discussion, it might be kind of a different mindset that we have to go into moving forward with this change of year, that we may have to push off a lot of our capital purchases to the second half of the year rather than the first half of the year, which is what we've traditionally been used to. So
This has been enlightening. So I'm going to be on page 4, Madeline. I'm going to impact fees. I added a few more details on this just to show you kind of the breakdown. Of course, this feeds into the discussion you had previously. But we've collected, in December, we collected just under 17,000 in impact fees. And our total is, for the year, it's about 132. Oh. Did I skip something? Yep. Yep. One back. One back. Am I out of line?
you must not have one on there.
You don't have impact fees on there?
You weren't supposed to do that.
You must be missing a page.
Hey, I don't know what happened. Sorry about that.
Miss Rhonda, since you're on that page, and I should know this, but what is miscellaneous income? Because it's obviously a slow burn as well.
Did you read my mind? As I was going through all this, I said, what in the world is miscellaneous income? And I don't really know the answer to that. I think it was probably some CARES money that was projected to come in. I'm researching that to see what that is, because that is that's a concern.
That's an unusual.
It's an unusual amount, and it's significantly higher than last year. It was budgeted, so there has to be some particular purpose. But I wasn't involved in the budget process, so I'm looking, investigating. So I'm sorry you don't have the slide for impact fees. Year to date, we have collected $131,000 in impact fees. Madeline, next. Okay, Pat. Traditionally, I think the town has budgeted HAT and accommodations combined. We account for them separately. So it's very difficult to compare budget to separate items that are combined. So I presented this in 2 sections for the hospitality tax and the accommodation tax. I added those together to compare it to the budgeted total of just under 4 million. We've collected 73% in total of both those categories through the first 6 months. I think those have rebounded. We could see that certainly from 2020. Next. Stormwater management. This also is collected on the tax bill. So this revenue will come in like our tax revenue does. And this is a similar situation Lisa referred to. Year to date, we've collected $300,000 in revenues. We spent $1.6 million. That those revenues to come in. This particular fund, when the budget was prepared, it was projected that we would spend $244,000 out of fund balance to balance this fund. Okay. Anything else? Any questions? And please, I welcome your comments as you have time to get through these. Thank you.
Good job.
We don't have to go through it again, Mayor. No, this is just if you want to continue any of the discussion that we started from the workshop.
I would just like for in the future, I know there's no plans to do it, to ask Amy to add the education building down here at Oak Brook, just in case something happens and we find some money to do that.
It's on there now? Okay.
Okay, sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if there aren't any other comments, it sounds like the CIP we have pretty well wrapped up. We just need to tweak it, probably take another look at the funding sources, add these items that council mentioned today, so we can have the CIP ready for consideration at the February meeting. As far as the impact fees, certainly we would welcome any recommendations from council as to whether or not we wanted to keep the same impact fee discount rates that we currently have, or if anybody would like to recommend another discount rate, or just try to get the fees as close as they are currently. We just need some direction from council.
And that was how I kind of left off the actual meeting before we had to adjourn. I think us setting a discount rate is probably the wrong message to our constituents and taxpayers, because we can say we kept the discount rate the same, but that's still a significant tax increase because the maximum allowable amount has increased. Did I get the actual term right? Because I hate buzzwords, acronyms, all that stuff. So what I would suggest that we do as a council, we don't do it now, but we maybe do it, finance committee, I don't know how we do it, but that as a council, we adopt a tax amount. Right now, single family residence impact fees is $1,100. I think I'm right about that. What do we want it to be? We want it to be 1,100. We want to be less. We want it to be more. I'm feeling like a majority of council wants it to be more. How much more? But give staff instruction. We want, instead of 1,100, we want it to be 1,200, 1,500, 2,000. Some of y'all might want 6,000, whatever the consensus of council is, and then let staff set the discount rate to get us there. If we say we cut the we could even cut the discount rate, it sounds like, and still be a tax increase. We can discount more is what I mean, and still we could increase the discount rate technically and still have a tax increase. We just need to be real upfront with our voters and constituents on, are we raising taxes, and if we are, by how much?
I suggest
Maybe-
we have a special meeting between now and the next finance committee meeting, just to talk about that,
Well, we can adopt the CIP in February. Lisa, do we have to? And the CIP, they both are ordinances. Are they separate ordinances? The adoption of the CIP and the
They're separate.
adoption of the impact fee study?
I believe
They're separate, but they're linked.
I understand the linkage, but we vote separately on them.
Yeah, I mean, they're two separate
Yeah.
ordinances.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any way we could give first reading to the CIP this Thursday?
Yeah, I definitely think we can make
That
that
would be,
happen.
that would be my suggestion. We go ahead and adopt the CIP and figure out between now and February what we're doing with the impact fee study, whether we need a special meeting or not. That's probably above my pay grade.
I was just going to ask for clarification. In each of those categories where you had the rates, Councilman McIntosh is kind of proposing that we set the rate in those categories. Are we able to do that, or are they formula based as we work our way down based on the use?
So, and that's what I wanted to clarify. If y'all want us it to be a certain amount at the total, that's fine. But the issue comes in, how much do you want for each category? Because each category can only be used for those, like the fire can only be used for fires. I mean, there's a certain impact. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan. So like the fire impact fees are used for fire station and the fire, that the municipal impact fees could be used for like the court facility and stuff like that. When the park and rec impact fees are used for park and rec purposes. So while you can go with that total, and we can play with the discount rates, we still need feedback from y'all as to which ones you want to be weighted more than the other, because it impacts how much money goes in those accounts.
Yeah, and I think what you might be asking, for example, the list, if we had a discount rate for single family residential, and to get to the number that you're looking for, the discount rate is 40%. That's going to change everything in that
can't-
category. We
yeah.
can't just pick everything and pick it. It's going to change
You can only
everything in that
choose one
category.
discount rate per category.
You're just picking the impact fee itself, and we have that flexibility provided we're under the maximum. I see a nod. Okay. That's what I wanted to verify.
So I'm with Mr. McIntosh on this, because we're not discounting, we're deciding what the rate's gonna be. I mean, I know there's a max rate, that's working backwards to
Discounting
me.
is just the term that's used.
But I mean, is it not, you can't go to each rate and say, I want it to be this dollar amount.
No.
It has to be a specific percent of something.
It's a percent of the maximum amount allowed, yes.
Okay.
As I understand it, the only thing we can change is the pink blocks.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes. That is correct.
If somebody comes in right now, Jesse, and asks, and wants a building permit, how much is the fire impact fee?
I don't have that right in front of me. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay,
Richard, do you know what it is?
yeah.
For single family residential?
Huh?
For single family residential?
Yeah, for a single family residence.
For a single family residential home, the current fee for fire protection is $358.
That's for any residence, no matter
Any
what, it
single family dwelling unit,
300 and what?
any single family dwelling unit is $358 for fire protection.
$358.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can't say we want to add X number of dollars to that.
Well, no, I mean, you can, and then figure out which discount rate will give you that. But right now, if you kept the 30% discount rate, I know you don't like that term, but I don't know what else to call it. If you
Yeah.
kept the 30% discount rate, based off the new maximum total amount, it would be $596 per single family dwelling unit.
And that discount rate comes off of, that's a discount rate of what? The price of the project?
That's the discount rate from the maximum allowable you can charge.
Damn, they make things complicated.
I know, it's not I mean, this is what we have to use based
I
on the
understand,
legislation.
I understand, it's not you,
So
but why couldn't it just be simple?
I don't know. So,
Old dumb man like me, they gotta make it hard. Okay,
Sounds like a discount rate is not a discount.
well, it is discounting it. You're
Uh-huh.
discounting it by 30% of what the maximum allowable amount you could charge is.
But you're discounting a new number,
Mhm.
yeah.
Which is
much,
why-
much higher than the existing number.
Correct. Although it's not a whole lot higher in the fire, and it depends on the use, but like with single family, our current municipal facilities and equipment rate with no discount is $481. The new proposed one would be $1,818. And I believe the main reason for that is because one, our population didn't go up quite as much as we thought it was going to. And two, almost 90% of our police calls are for residences, not for commercial. So most of our service calls for police are to residences, so they have the most impact. Correct me if I'm- yes, John. Okay, good.
So what staff recommending we go up?
Oh, I don't have a recommendation.
We all didn't recommend.
No. Staff did not make a recommendation.
No, what we had plugged into the worksheet that we sent you were the actual current discount rates that we have set right now.
Yeah.
That's what was plugged into the worksheet that was sent to you.
Yeah,
But you
just-
have the
just so you could
ability.
compare it to
Yeah,
with the new maximum allowable.
yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Oh, y'all speaking, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to say that your thought of looking at staff for a recommendation is the same thought I have. Understanding that they have a better picture through their department heads of what their needs are, and the impact of each of those fees on how they're able to do their jobs. If they could come up with a recommendation in the spirit of our discussion, maybe they can understand what we're looking for a little bit better now and make a recommendation for us as a great starting point. That's just my thoughts.
And maybe to add to Councilman Touchberry, maybe rather than a recommendation, we might call it, after discussion with department heads, here is a starting point at which we think council might want to look at. I think that would be helpful to us. I'm trying to keep anyone on staff from being
Well, I didn't
gored.
want to make a recommendation because I don't have any capital purchases. Like my department doesn't. So it's not really my, I have been coordinating it, but it's, fire, police, parks and rec, those public works, those are the main ones that have the capital needs. And yes, while the CIP doesn't impact what's on the impact fees, how you calculate your impact fees, that's what the impact fees can be used for. And so, I think I don't want to speak for our department heads or for Lisa, but I think they could take a look at what capital needs they have that can use impact fees and see where that need arises, because you do have to use them within 3 years. So it is, you do have to look at what you need and what you have and that sort of thing. So that.
I think that we've heard from most of you today, and I think that we can try to come up with something as a recommendation, as a starting point, whatever you want to call it. If you all want us to bring that to you at the next finance committee meeting, we can certainly do that. And then in the meantime, we will, on this Thursday, I think we can have the CIP ordinance ready for you to consider Thursday. Does that work? Okay, I think we're under surplus vehicles.
Authorization to surplus and sell the following equipment from the Parks and Recreation Department: 2002 EasyGo ST350 Workhorse RM11, 2005 Toro Workman RM16, and 2005 John Deere HPX Gator RF38.
Motion to approve this surplusing these vehicles.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those raise their hand, signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
Authorization to issue a purchase order to Performance Automotive Group for one Dodge Ram police pickup truck on state contract totaling $30,699.50 to be funded from lease purchase funds. Request from the police department.
Mr. Mayor, I make that we approve this authorization.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? If not, raise your right hand. Signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.
Authorization to issue a purchase order for E&D Contracting Services Incorporated in the amount of $26,700 for the painting of the traffic mast arms at the intersection of Richardson Avenue and Main Street. Funds to come from budgeted capital road improvements. Request from the Public Works Department.
Motion?
I'll make the motion, but I do have a question.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded. Any
Second.
discussion on this?
My question is, painting these, how often do we have to paint these? And I didn't realize it needed painting.
Yes, ma'am. Those mast arms were installed in 1997. I painted them in 2008. And if you look at them closely, the paint is faded. There's rust spots on them. They're looking pretty rough. And part of that cost is also to replace the signs on the arms.
So,
About every 10 to 15 years, to answer your question.
okay, and that's pretty standard then.
Yes, ma'am. And this company, the D&D Contracting, they're out of the Savannah area. They do a bit of this work in the Savannah and Bluffton area.
And you said you're replacing the signs?
Yes, ma'am. New signs.
Are they the same size or are they
They'll be
larger?
approximately the same size. Yep.
Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say, as we replace some of these signs, if we talk about maybe going to lighted signs like most of our neighbors have on the way into town.
They're not with this one, Mr. Jackson, no, sir.
How much more would it be to do something like that?
I don't know. I can look into that.
That the signs would be reflective, correct? Is that
They're
what you're
already
saying?
reflective. They will all be.
Oh, I thought
already
he said
be
lighted.
reflective.
Oh, lighted.
A lot of the signs on these now are, I guess, back or lit.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what, I need to look into more to that, power source, et cetera.
Well, perhaps.
Anything else?
we
Russ,
could-
you're just painting, right?
Yes, sir. They'll prepare the poles
Yeah,
for new paint
preparing the
and
paint,
then
yeah.
replace the signs. I will tell you, if we do go with a lit sign, we may have to come back for a change order. Have that back in mind, which may delay the process too.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody understand that? Okay. All right, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.
Request to approve funds from budgeted H-Tax for annual July 4th fireworks event on Monday, July 4th, 2022, in the amount of $19,000 to be paid to Pyro Shows East Coast Incorporated upon receipt of the invoices. Quote provided and included in packet. Request is from the Parks and Recreation Department.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Not all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry. Okay, executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter related to audit services.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to invite Rhonda Moore and David Irwin and Brian Nicholson to attend the meeting.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
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 Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.